when we are structuring our web page and set the content inside it, such as header, nav, aside, section, footer, we need to style the content so it will appear properly into the browser and the user will be satisfied when he visits the web page. To do that, we need to control, or we need to set the layout of HTML layout. So as we said, we have header, we have nav, and it is really helpful to set it all like this. So the header will be at the top, it will be followed by nav, aside will be at the left, content will be at the right, and finally the footer will be below at the bottom. These tags we already introduced in the semantic elements video. Links above. If you didn't watch, you may go and watch it. So here's an example. Our web page may look something like this one. So the header will have the logo and the link for home page. The nav will have links for other web pages. Side will have some content. Then section will have others, as well as the footer will be there having the developer name and copyright sign. There are several techniques to lay out the web page. One of it is CSS Grid. Another is CSS Flexbox. Third is CSS Framework, and finally is the CSS Float property. You don't need to study all of this. Studying one of it, understand it, and use it will be really fine and enough, mostly. So in our example, in our lesson here, we are going to go for the CSS Grid. CSS Grid, it offers a grid-based layout system. So it offers, if I can say, a table. The layout will be set as a table with rows and columns, and it will has one parent element, which is the container, and one or more child element. To use the CSS Grid, we need to include the display grid property in the parent element, and it's supposed to look something like this. You see rows and column. So the grid columns property, or the grid columns, each column or each item appear between two vertical lines, and these vertical lines draw a column, and it will be used to specify the size of an element vertically. Grid column property will be used to do so. Example of that is grid column 1 until 5. So it's gonna take one line. It will start, this item will start from line number 1, the first vertical line, until line number 5. There is also grid row, and it will be used to specify the size of an item vertically, how many rows the item is going to take. And the property is grid row. This is an example of it. Let's see how the code looks like. This is my file, contact_style.css, and I'm going to create a new class called container grid. It can be any name, grid, and open the curly braces. As we said, we need to start with display, and it have to be, the value of it will be grid gap, and I'm going to choose it to be 10px. Background color, I will go for this color, and then I have padding of 10px as well. So this is the first thing, simple. And next, so this is the class that I'm going to attach to the parent element. To style the child, I'm going to create another class which I will call grid content, and it will have the following properties. Background color, I will use the RGB with these values because I want to set also the transparent. I'll use the text align center. font size to be 30px, and finally is the padding of 20px and 0. 20px is going to be for top and bottom, and right and left is going to be 0. Alright, so here I have done creating the classes for the parent element as well as for the child element. Before assign this to the HTML element, I need also to style header as well as the nav. I will do also the same thing for aside. I have also section. Finally, footer. Here I'm going to assign what size of each of these will take. Is it going to take one column, one row, or is going to be more than one column, more than one row? So let's see. Me myself, the header, I'm going to make it full screen. So imagine that my web page is gonna consist of 3 rows, 3 columns. So I need to specify in the container grid for the parent, I need to specify the grid template areas. So in this property, I'm going to specify how many column and row each one of these is going to take of the page. So for the header, I'm going to specify to be 4. Then for the aside is going to take only 1, and then we have section. Finally is the footer, and footer is going to be 4 times. Next, I need to go inside each one of these and specify the grid area to be header. For the nav is going to be nav. Here is going to be aside. Section. And footer. As well as I'm going to add also some other styles for the form, because I have a form, as well as for its content such as input and label. Here is the code. For the form overflow hidden, label is going to float left with width 100% and padding right 24%. For input is going to float left and width 100%. Here is the style for our form, and let's see how it will appear.